Excellencies, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege for me today, November 25th, 2022, to preside over the item 6 plenary of the Universal Periodic Review. I warmly welcome you all. Before we begin our agenda, I would like to invite Madam Vice President to reiterate the operational guidelines for today's item 6, along with the rules of conduct to be followed during the plenary. Madam Vice President, you may now proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished representatives, and honored guests. I remind you that every team should raise their individual placards and wait for acknowledgement from the President prior to participating in the discussion. Please do not talk until you're officially given the floor. Please stand up when speaking and use the formal address, referring to other delegates as fellow delegates of, and to the President as Madam President. National human rights institutions and NGOs will be making their interventions from their seats, while states will be making their opening speech at the stand and the final remarks from their seats. The coffee break will take place on the second floor in the same room the lunch was delivered on Wednesday. I would also like to remind you that the use of mobile phones during the session is prohibited. Madam President, I pass you back the floor.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I hereby declare open the session of the Human Rights Council. We shall now open the item 6 agenda with the adoption of the Universal Periodic Review Working Group outcomes of the reviews of the state of Azerbaijan, Cameroon, Canada, Colombia, France, and Nigeria. Before we proceed, let me briefly recall the modalities of the UPR segment of the plenary. I would like to take this opportunity to emphasize the important role the National Human Rights Institution and non-governmental organizations play in the UPR process. Their participation in the deliberation of the Council within the framework of the UPR segment provides additional clarification of issues under discussion. In this regard, I would like to refer to the Human Rights Council Resolution 16/21, to which the Council strongly rejects any act of intimidation or reprisal against individuals and groups who cooperate with the United Nations and its representatives in human rights cases. I urge states to prevent and ensure adequate protection against such acts. Furthermore, I would like to recall, as provided for in Council Resolution 5/1 and 16/21, that all recommendations are an integral part of the outcome document. Accordingly, and in line with paragraph 32 of the Annex 5 to Resolution 5/1. The state under review needs to clearly communicate its position on all recommendations, either by indicating that it supports or that it notes the recommendations concerned. In addition, all intervention made during the UPR plenary segment shall focus on the outcome document and not focus on debates that took place during the working group session. I would therefore like to appeal to all delegations to adhere to the rules established by Resolution 5/1 and 16/21. In conclusion, I wish to highlight that, as emphasized by the United Nations Secretary General in his reports, the UPR recommendation provide an important basis to achieving greater results, both in the implementation of sustainable development goals and human rights protection at national and international level. Through the Universal Periodic Review mechanism, international cooperation between states and civil society organizations is enhanced and implemented to ensure long-lasting peace and well-being for all. We will now proceed with the consideration of the outcome of the Republic of Azerbaijan, based on the report made by the working group of the UPR and its addendum. This document, along with the additional information which the state under review will provide now, will be adopted by the Council to standardize the decision. Now, I have the pleasure to give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Federica Di Rocco, Minister Counselor of the Permanent Mission of Azerbaijan to the United Nations Office in Geneva, to present the general outcome of the working group session. Your Excellency, I invite you to take the floor up here. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Fellow delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege for me to present the delegation of to represent the delegation of Azerbaijan on the occasion of the outcome of the 5th Universal Periodic Review. Firstly, we would like to thank all the states that have participated in our review with their recommendation, the Troika members of Colombia, the President, and all the members of the Secretariat, as well as NGOs and MHRIs. As stated in the addendum, during the working group's session, Azerbaijan received 12 recommendations, of which 6 were accepted and 6 were noted. It is a privilege to announce that the government of Azerbaijan is implementing the new media law adopted in 2021 towards the objective of expanding the independence of journalists and media. Furthermore, a new draft of the law on personal information and protection of information is being prepared, thanks to a close collaboration with the National Committee of IT experts from all over the country to keep on guaranteeing privacy rights for all. In the meantime, the Azerbaijani government is also working side by side with NGOs and civil society. The adoption of the presidential decree on the establishment of the new agency for state support to NGOs last year made the cooperation between our government and NGOs much clearer and smoother. And this allowed Azerbaijan to start implementing some of the recommendations accepted. For example, the Azerbaijani Republic is working on a new awareness-raising project on independent trials and investigations, along with the NGO Public Union for Social Development Step to the Future. Furthermore, issues such as the lack of education and public awareness on corporal punishment of children will be addressed on specific occasions, such as during the next Children's Rights Month 2023, promoted and operated by the government in collaboration with our Commissioner of Human Rights. The National Action Plan for Combating Domestic Violence 2022-2023 is completed, and the Azerbaijani government is moving forward to the elaboration of a new joint campaign with the International Organization for Migration for the years 2023 and 2024 to raise awareness on the phenomenon of human trafficking, and such as to monitor the reports that reach our dedicated helpline center. In addition, Azerbaijan's political plurality is also expanding, and since 2020, 9 new parties have been registered and have entered the political debate. The Republic of Azerbaijan is fully aware of the domestic situation we are living in and the issues we are facing because of it in regards of human rights violations. However, Azerbaijan strongly believes in the transparency and fairness of its judicial system, and we believe that it will keep on conducting fair trials. Moreover, Azerbaijan has updated its anti-corruption policy document in 2020, and a new anti-corruption national action plan 2022-2026 was approved. Among its priorities, it is possible to find the improvement of legislation, as well as measures on preventing corruption and improving administration mechanisms. Finally, regarding Azerbaijan's decision on noting the recommendation regarding the recognition of the lesbian language as an official language, Azerbaijan would like to remind that the government is already taking steps in that direction and in the direction of protection and preservation of minority languages. The state radio of Azerbaijan broadcasts regular government-funded radio programs in Kurdish, Lezgi, Talish, Georgian, Russian, and Armenian language. More than 50 newspapers and magazines are published in the language of ethnic communities living in Azerbaijan, and 5 local televisions and radio stations operate in regions densely populated by national minorities. Madam President, our delegation will now listen to the comments and remarks from the floor and will answer and respond accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I now give the floor to the Commissioner for Human Rights of the Republic of Azerbaijan for comments Ombudswoman, Ms. Stanislava Klikachova, you have 2 minutes and the floor is yours.
Dear Madam President, Secretariat, and fellow delegates, we would like to firstly thank the Liskin delegation for collaborating with the Ombudsman Office of Azerbaijan to improve human rights in our country. During these years, the UPR, the Azerbaijan government supported recommendations about issues the Ombudsman Office voiced their concerns about, and although grateful, we feel these developments to be insufficient. The media law adopted in 2021 raises concerns about its compliance with international standards, as the law was concluded without broad and meaningful public consultations. It overregulates the media field and it grants discretionary powers to state authorities regulating the media sector, including through licensing. Although we highly appreciate Azerbaijan's efforts in improving its anti-corruption legislation, as long as the anti-corruption policy is directly managed by the current political administration, which may be part of the issue, the implementation of the anti-corruption national plan may be hindered. Thus, we continue to believe the establishment of an autonomous anti-corruption body is a key prerequisite to yield effective results. The Ombudsman Office would additionally like to note that even though there have been new political parties registered, it does not necessarily ensure fair opportunity of said parties to gain power or engage with public under the dominance of the President Aliyev's ruling party. We are furthermore regretful of the government of Azerbaijan not addressing the issue of ill treatment of detainees and arbitrary arrests of journalists and critics of the government. We would like to therefore reiterate our recommendations to improve the freedom of expression, press and assembly rights more efficiently and on a larger scale, and set up effective mechanisms and tools to battle widespread corruption and limited political plurality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Klikachova. I'll now give the floor to the observer states to hear their comments about the review of Azerbaijan. For this segment, please raise your placard if you wish to comment and wait for your delegation to be called out. Each state will have 1 minute. I now give the floor to the delegation of Cameroon. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President. We would like to thank the delegation of Azerbaijan for the presentation of their addendum. The delegation of Cameroon welcomes all the efforts of the state of Azerbaijan in regards to the accepted recommendations, especially the focus on protecting privacy rights for all its citizens. It is mentioned in the working group report addendum that Azerbaijan will closely cooperate with experts in the IT field. The state of Cameroon is encouraging you to further increase these efforts, as working together with experts brings great insight and can have a significant positive impact on improving the privacy rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of Canada. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President and fellow delegates. The state of Canada would like to thank you, the delegation of Azerbaijan, for your efforts, and nevertheless, considering the lobbying session with the NGOs and the National Human Rights Commissions, the state of Canada would one more time bring the attention of the state of Azerbaijan on the following concerns. First one is the clarification on the ill treatment affecting prisoners, and for this reason, allowing independent investigation on their condition. And then, one more time again, the proper establishment of an efficient anti-corruption law, as you said before in your national report. And for this reason, a watchdog body to monitor it and prevent it from exploitation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of Colombia.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished member of the Secretariat, fellow delegates, and honorary representatives of the NGOs and the HRIs here present. The delegation of the Republic of Colombia welcomes the delegation of Azerbaijan and thanks it for the presentation of its item 6. The delegation of Colombia would like to express its gratitude and congratulate the state of Azerbaijan for its continuous efforts in prioritizing children's rights and education. In particular, we would like to highlight the newest initiative undertaken by Azerbaijan to make the Children's Rights Month an annual recurrence. We believe that this can be a positive practice adopted by other countries as well. Furthermore, we also wish to applaud the state of Azerbaijan for the enactment of the National Plan for Combating Domestic Violence 2022-2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Delegation of France, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates, NGOs, and HRIs. France delegation thanks Azerbaijan for attending the fifth cycle of the Universal Periodic Review. France is still concerned about noted recommendation regarding detaining journalists, political opponents, the establishment of new political parties, and the anti-corruption law. Azerbaijan noted this recommendation with a no explanation, so we ask to clarify its decision and to reconsider its position. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Delegation of Nigeria, you may now have the floor. No, they're not coming. Okay, sorry. I now give the floor to the international organizations for any comments. For this segment, please raise your placard if you wish to comment. Say the name of your organization out loud and wait to be given the floor to speak. Please note that you have 1 minute. I now give the floor to the representative of Minority Rights Group International. You may now speak.
President, Vice President, Secretary for the floor. I'm the President of Minority International. I would like to thank the delegation of Azerbaijan for their presentation and consideration regarding the minority issue presenting the country in the improvement of children's situation. MIT would like to recommend a wider investment of economic resources in the state of Azerbaijan regarding the provision of school materials to give children the possibility to study their minority languages in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is the representative of Global Initiative to End All Corporate Punishment of Children.
Thank you, Madam President, Vice President, and members of the Secretariat. We appreciate your facilitation of a smooth universal periodic review cycle. I represent the NGO of Global Initiative to End All Corporal Punishment of Children. Our NGO would like to commend the Republic of Azerbaijan on its adoption of the Colombian recommendation to strengthen the efforts in raising awareness regarding the issue of children's rights with a specific focus in corporal punishment, be it in domestic or public environments. Also, we would like to highlight the importance of human rights education and relevant initiatives to be implemented in the future for a better world for children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? This concludes the list of speakers of the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to the representative of Azerbaijan for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. The Republic of Azerbaijan would like to thank once again all the states and members from civil society that contributed to this last session. The Azerbaijani government has taken note of all these last comments and remarks and is willing to work on all the issues that were brought up by you. We are fully conscious of the challenges related to the human rights situations that Azerbaijan faces every day due to the domestic situation due to our domestic situation, and we acknowledge them. We can assure you that governmental and non-governmental authorities are fully committed to improving Azerbaijan's human rights situation. However, in some cases, especially with regards to the treatment of detainees in prisons and detention centers, And with regards to the implementation of further measures on combating corruption, the conflictual situation in our territories and their present occupation enable the Azerbaijani government to take further measures in some fields. In addition, it is of extreme importance to remind that the Republic of Azerbaijan is not accountable for violations of human rights and freedoms committed in those areas. We would like to thank again, Madam President, the Secretariat, all the participating states, NGOs, and NHRIs for their contributions and efforts in helping improve the human rights situation in Azerbaijan and to keep on promoting the true values of human rights through mechanisms such as the Universal Periodic Review. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Tirokko for her comments and for the state of Azerbaijan participation throughout the UPR process. I now suggest that the Council should adopt a decision on the outcome of the UPR of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Are there any objections? I see none. The outcome is adopted. We shall now continue with the item 6 of the Universal Periodic Review with the adoption of the Working Group Report of Cameroon. It is with pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Jovan Nikolic, Minister Counselor of the Permanent Mission of the Republic of Cameroon to the United Nations Office in Geneva to present the general outcome of the Working Group session. Your Excellency, I invite you to take the floor up here. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished guests, fellow representatives of countries, INGO, and NHRIs. On behalf of the delegation of Cameroon, I take this opportunity to address the main points of our working group report. In total, our country received 13 recommendations. First of all, I want to stress that we are thankful for these recommendations because they suggest that other countries has recognized the main issues that our country and our people are currently facing. To begin with, our country received 4 recommendations to fully implement the Article 356 of the Penal Code regarding the prohibition of early and forced marriages. The government of Cameroon is fully devoted to prohibit and end forced marriages, and is working with the most important stakeholders in the field, such as UNICEF and the African Union Commission. Furthermore, as research our government has previously conducted, a large percentage of young women have been forced into early marriages because of poor economic situation within their families. In that manner, the government of Cameroon has relocated more funds in order to mitigate the economic difficulties that our families are facing on an everyday basis. To continue, our country has received 2 recommendations to remove the death penalty from its own judicial system and ratify the 2nd optional protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. I want to emphasize that the death penalty has been de facto abolished in Cameroon since the last execution occurred 25 years ago. Nevertheless, the government of Cameroon will put strong efforts to ratify 2nd optional protocol and de jure abolish the death penalty in our system. Finally, I want to address 2 main security issues that are threatening the well-being of our state and that are connected with the recommendations we noted in our addendum. In the first place, our country is facing serious protests in southwest and northwest of the country by some parts of English-speaking population. In 2019, the government launched the Major National Dialogue, which is made of different commissions that includes the most important stakeholders in the field, such as the most importantly representatives of English-speaking population, but also experts on bilingualism, women rights, and refugees and others. I want to stress out that Cameroon is a democratic country, meaning that the voice of every person should and will be heard inside of our political institutions. However, I assure you that violence and other anti-democratic means that are being used now in Cameroon of some parts of the protesters won't be tolerated. Secondly, our country is facing serious threats that are coming from the north of the country, where the most of Boko Haram terrorists and their organizations connected to them are located. Currently, the government of Cameroon is cooperating with 66 different non-governmental organizations in order to prevent humanitarian crisis. I also want to thank our neighboring country, Nigeria, for their development, for our mutual development of Joint Security Committee and their cooperation to mitigate the adverse effect of terrorism on both sides of our border. Thank you. And finally, I want to thank fellow representatives of countries and organizations for the recommendation and the Secretariat for their astonishing work they've done this year. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I now give the floor for comments to the Permanent Secretary of the Cameroon Human Rights Commission, Ms. Martina Dioni. Ms. Dioni, you have 2 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates, distinguished members of LINGOs and NHRIs. We acknowledge the efforts made by the Cameroonian delegation in the Working Group Interactive Dialogue and wish to thank the delegation of Cameroon as well as the other recommending states for their constructive cooperation with the CHRC aimed at improving the state's human rights record. The CHRC is grateful that most of its concerns were addressed during the UPR in the formal recommendations to the state of Cameroon. Among these, 10 out of 13 recommendations were accepted by the relevant delegation. Namely, the recommendations concerning the proper implementation of Article 2077, Part 1, and 356, respectively criminalizing female genital mutilation and forced marriages, advanced by the states of France, and Nigeria. The recommendation regarding the criminalization of domestic violence, advanced by the state of Nigeria. The recommendation on the ratification of the second optional protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, advanced by both the French delegation and the Canadian delegation. And finally, the recommendation on the necessity of reviewing criminal law to ensure safety for human rights defenders, advanced by Nigeria. However, we urge the Cameroonian government to keep on seeking efficient solutions to the peaceful resolution of the Anglophone crisis, and to review the text of the 2014 anti-terror law, ensuring that it is not used to arbitrarily limit the freedom of expression. Moreover, the CHRC wishes to point your attention to the importance of the continuous monitoring activity of the implementation of the recommendations accepted by the Cameroonian delegation during this cycle of the UPR. The CHRC will continue to strive and work for the improvement of the human rights situation in Cameroon. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dioni. I'll now give the floor to the observer states to hear their comments about the review of Cameroon. Each will have 1 minute. Please raise your placard if you wish to comment and wait for your delegation to be called out. We will start with the delegation of Azerbaijan. Please, Your Excellency, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Respectful delegates, the Republic of Azerbaijan like to thank the delegation of Cameroon for accepting the recommendation related to the Article 356 of the Penal Code on the prohibition of the forced marriages, as well as the Republic of Azerbaijan also encourages the delegation of Cameroon's government to continue its working with the United Nations population fund in order to successfully implement Article 356 of the Penal Code, as well as to work with the cooperation with African Union Commission and the UNICEF as the main stakeholders in this field. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now is the turn of the delegation of Canada. Please, Your Excellency, you may now have.
Thank you, Madam President and fellow delegates. The state of Canada will congratulate the delegation of Cameroon for its commitment in facing internal issues in the country. However, the state of Canada will push for considering the following recommendations. The state of Cameroon should seriously consider bringing law number 28 of 2014 into line with international human rights standards to ensure that the law is not used to arbitrarily limit freedom of expression, given that given its current exploitation in arresting human rights defenders without any legal procedures and fair trials. The government should modify the current food system, to recognize and improve the importance of the role of small farmers in the Cameroonian economic scenario, and also work for the empowerment of the women's rights in matter of land ownership and local agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of Colombia. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished members of the Secretariat, fellow delegates, and honorary representatives of the NGOs and NHRIs here present, the delegation of the Republic of Colombia welcomes the delegation of Cameroon and thanks it for the presentation of its item 6. We commend the initiatives undertaken by the State of Cameroon in cooperation with the United Nations Population Fund and the African Union Commission for the implementation of Article 356 of the Penal Code. Furthermore, since our second recommendation has been noted as unclear, we would like to clarify it. Our recommendation was also inspired by the work of the Cameroonian NHRI that proposes the improvement of birth registration procedure, ensure universal application, and reach the most remote areas through the proper enforcement of Act number 2011/011. We apologize for any confusion caused and hope that after this clarification, the State of Cameroon can take the matter under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of France. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates, NGOs, and HLIs. France delegation thanks the delegation of Cameroon for participating to this cycle of universal periodic review and for accepting our recommendation. However, France expects Cameroon to officially abolish death penalty, ratifying the second optional protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Delegation of Nigeria, you may now have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates. The International Working Groups of Indigenous Affairs have brought to our attention that while our close associate Cameroon has graciously accepted several recommendations regarding the issues of forced marriage and female genital mutilation, they have yet to provide concrete measures in which they will implement policy to bring an end to those matters. As a close ally of Cameroon, whose interests are similarly aligned, the State of Nigeria asks that the respected delegates of Cameroon consider proposing more specific means of implementation in the next UPR cycle. We value Cameroon's cooperation and extend our appreciation for their contribution to Nigeria during this UPR cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to international organizations for them to make comments. 1 minute is the allotted time for each speaker. For this segment, please raise your placard if you wish to comment. Say the name of your organization out loud and wait to be given the floor to speak.
Hello, I'm the International Coordinator of Friends of the Earth International.
You may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, all present delegates, for your efforts to improve the human rights situation. We would like to comment that while Canada has already emphasized the food system and empowering women and land ownership, including the abolition of the law 121.85, which prevents women from having rights to land ownership in part of the country, we would also like to emphasize the importance of flood and drought prevention to support both the food system as well as the general security in Cameroon.
Thank you very much. Our organization is Women International League for Peace and Freedom. You may now have the floor. Thank you, Madam President, Your Excellencies, fellow delegates. On behalf of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, I would like to thank the delegation of Cameroon for the adoption of the recommendations made by Azerbaijan and Colombia regarding the prohibition of forced marriage.
However, we are still concerned about the need of increasing women's political participation and deconstruction of patriarchal custom in order for Cameroonian women to become fully empowered. We believe that our job is not done until the social vulnerability of Cameroonian women is fully eradicated. Thank you.
Thank you.
International Working Group for Indigenous Affairs.
Miss, you may now comment.
Madam President, fellow delegates, on behalf of IWGIA, we sadly noted that the Republic of Cameroon disregarded the recommendations regarding Indigenous children's access to education, the ongoing violence against Indigenous leaders, and the right to access land ownership. These are critical issues that need to be addressed, and it's a positive obligation that the government has to fulfill. Our distinguished appreciation goes to the delegates of Nigeria for bringing our concerns to Cameroon. We're looking forward to future collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Global Initiative. Joanne.
Miss, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President. I represent the NGO Global Initiative to End All Corporal Punishment of Children. Our NGO would like to thank the Republic of Cameroon for adopting recommendations on critical human rights issues. However, the Republic of Cameroon has yet to achieve legal prohibition of corporal punishment for children in the home, alternative care settings, and daycare. Although the Constitution guarantees no one shall be subjected to cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment or punishment, neither it nor the Penal Code expressly disallows corporal punishment of its children. For years, there has been a promise of the creation of a Cameroon Child Protection Code. As of this date, there is no word as to its status. Our NGO urges the Republic of Cameroon to create and enact a child protection code for the purpose of strengthening domestic legislation relevant to the prohibition of corporal punishment. We would like to bring attention to the importance of human rights education as a means of cultivating children's knowledge on human and child rights and the long-term benefits of properly educated people on this field. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? This concludes the list of speakers of the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to Cameroon for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of the delegation of Cameroon, we wish to thank all participants for a successful UPR session. And the government of Cameroon has seriously taken consideration all received recommendation, and again wishes to emphasize the importance of multilateral mechanism in today's world, especially the role of the United Nations. Regarding the recommendations connected to the food system, small farmers, and economics, we highly appreciate these recommendations, and we will surely take them into consideration. For the recommendations regarding the death penalty and the ratification of second code, our country will do the best efforts to ratify the protocol and implement it in its own judicial system. Regarding the latter recommendations, we take note of all of them, and we want to express the gratitude over the recognition of the difficult situation within our country. I want to stress out finally that only together we are able to strive for clean, prosperous, and peaceful future for all citizens of our planet and ensure that human rights of each person will be fully respected. Finally, I want to thank Secretariat for their work again they're doing this year, and to you, Madam President and Madam Vice President, for the successful UPR. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Nikolic for his comments and for Cameroon's participation throughout the UPR process. I now suggest that the Council should adopt the decision on the outcome of the Universal Periodic Review of the Republic of Cameroon. Are there any objections? I see none. The outcome is now adopted. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, We shall now proceed with the item 6 of the Universal Periodic Review with the adoption of the Working Group Report of Canada. It is with pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Marco Doncic, Ambassador, Permanent Mission of Canada to the United Nations Office in Geneva, to present the general outcome of the working group session. Your Excellency, I invite you to take the floor up here. Can you please be completed there so that I will be able to get the mic?
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished delegates. So the delegation of Canada takes seriously into consideration every recommendation that were proposed by the other fellow delegates during this Universal Periodic Review. In particular, 10 recommendations were received, 7 were accepted, 2 were noted, and 1 was put under a further examination. In particular, State of Canada accepted the recommendations regarding the improving of the situation of living of Indigenous people and the environmental protection. For what concerns the Indigenous people, delegation of Canada has to say that our government decided to raise the funds in order to better integrate these populations into our social economy and our educational system. We are ongoing with the implementation of Bill 83, which prevents the segregation of these people in all correctional institutes. Furthermore, for what concerns the forced sterilization of Indigenous women, the State of Canada is fully aware of this, and our government decided to create a special institution that will monitor the hospitals in order to prevent this practice. For what concerns the environmental protection, we accepted the recommendations regarding this, but these projects are strategic for our country, so we decided to protect all of these populations in the areas which are outside the construction of the pipelines, and to protect also the biodiversity. For what concerns the noted recommendations, we have to say that the convention for the migrant workers is not compatible with our legislation because it can lead to clashes with the national law, and and the same concern for the Convention Against the Torture. Our state already guarantees good standards about this practice, and implementation of this protocol also can lead to misimplementation of our legislation. But the one recommendation which was put under further examinations regards the resettlement of the migrant workers, which are currently under review of the compatibility with our legislation. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I now give the floor to the Executive Director of the Canadian Human Rights Commission for comments. Ms. Paulina Sedova, you have 2 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of the Canadian Human Rights Commission, I would like to express our deepest gratitude for the members of the UPR Secretariat, for the distinguished representative of all NGOs and NHRIs, and for fellow state delegates for the care and efforts they put into considering human rights issues in our country. We thank sincerely the Canadian delegation for taking seriously all positive recommendations. However, we would like to emphasize that human rights protection is not a sprint, but a marathon, and we should strive for a better future for the next generations with great patience and love. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Padova. I now give the floor to the observer states to hear their comments about the review of Canada. Each will have 1 minute. Please raise your placard if you wish to comment and wait for your delegation to be called out. We will start with the delegation of Azerbaijan. Please, Your Excellency, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and respectful fellow delegates. The Republic of Azerbaijan like to thank the delegation of Canada for accepting the provided recommendation by the Republic of Azerbaijan to take all necessary measures to ensure that recommendations made by the United Nations Committee on the elimination of racial discrimination. On the other hand, the delegation of Azerbaijan urges the delegation of Canada to have a further serious observation to implement the noted recommendation about the importance to sign and ratify the optional protocol to the Convention against the other cruel, inhuman, or regarding the treatment of punishments. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now is the turn of the delegation of Cameroon. Please, Your Excellency, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We would like to thank the delegation of Canada for their presentation of their addendum. The delegation of Cameroon appreciates the efforts taken by the state of Canada in terms of eliminating the socioeconomic gap between the Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadian population. However, even though Canada made great efforts in the past to improve the human rights situation of the Indigenous population, we encourage you to continue the discussion on this issue with the Canadian government and to further allocate resources in order to strive for a better future for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the delegation of Colombia. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished member of the Secretariat, fellow delegates, and honorary representatives of the NGOs and NHRIs here present. The delegation of the Republic of Colombia welcomes the delegation of Canada and thanks it for the presentation of its item 6. The delegation of Colombia would like to express its greetings to Canada's improvement on the implementation of Bill C-83 to ensure the overall elimination of administrative and disciplinary segregation. We believe that the state of Canada has the potential, the means, and goodwill to become a positive paradigm for all states present here today, including Colombia. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of France. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates, NGOs, and HRIs. France delegation thanks Canada for attending the 5th cycle of Universal Periodic Review. France appreciates that Canada accepted our recommendation about the protection of Indigenous women's rights. But regarding the noted recommendation about the refugee resettlement program, we wish Canada will take this project in their future programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Delegation of Nigeria, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The state of Nigeria thanks the delegates of Canada for their work during the UPR. However, we do have concerns regarding the rights of migrant workers. We hear the reasoning that promoting the rights of migrant workers may have challenges due to the rhetoric of Canadian law. And would like to emphasize that human rights protection should take the precedence and would move to us that the law be altered in order to be better protected those who currently remain at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to international organizations for them to make comments. 1 minute is the allotted time for each speaker. For this segment, please raise your placard if you wish to comment, say the name of your organization out loud, and wait to be given the floor to speak.
Thank you, Madam President. Frontline Defenders want to thank the delegation of Canada for supporting our recommendations and comments for the Republic of Cameroon, Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Republic of Colombia. We're grateful for your comprehensive understanding of human rights defenders' issues, and we believe that accepted recommendations can help with the situation in mentioned countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
International Working Group for Indigenous Affairs.
You may now comment.
Madam President, fellow delegates, on behalf of IWGIA, I want to express our appreciation to Canada for supporting our recommendations regarding access to clean water and Indigenous women's rights and safety. We are looking forward to its effective implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? This concludes the list of speaker of the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to Canada for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. Okay, thank you, Madam President. So first of all, the delegation of Canada wants to clarify that. Wants to clarify that actually the convention of the resettlement of migrant workers was not noted, but put under further examination to assess the compatibility with our legislation. After that, the delegation of Canada wants to thank all the fellow delegates about their recommendations, and our state is willing to further implement better standards for the human rights and well-living of our citizens and inhabitants. For what concerns the noted recommendations, the state of Canada is pushing actually to implement the standards that these conventions actually proposes, but it's not possible to implement it in our legislation due to incompatibility, and it can lead to misapplication of our norms. So thank you, distinguished delegates, and Madam President, this was our speech.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Doncic for his comments and for Canada's participation throughout the UPR process. I now suggest that the Council should adopt the decision on the outcome of the Universal Periodic Review of Canada. Are there any objections? I see none. The outcome is now adopted. We shall now proceed with item 6 of the Universal Periodic Review with the adoption of the Working Group Report of the Republic of Colombia. It is with pleasure to give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Laura Berlin, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Colombia to the United Nations Office in Geneva, to present the general outcome of the working group sessions. Your Excellency, I invite you to take the floor up here. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, distinguished delegates of this session, members of the civil society, warm greetings. The state of Colombia underscores the importance it attaches to the UPR and welcomes the recommendations received last November 2022 in its fourth review. First and foremost, we are grateful to the 5 delegations who participated in the report. In total, we have received 8 recommendations. I am pleased to inform you that 7 of these enjoyed the report of Colombia, on which it has been working relentlessly over the past 6 months. We believe that putting them into concrete action is proof of the UPR mechanism effectiveness. 2 support recommendations address the issues of the vulnerable populations, inter alia, internally displaced people, and indigenous peoples. Colombia has set up a program for internally displaced people to return to their homes. It offered them facile accessibility to advice centers in different regions, with free counseling to help returnees chart their return while benefiting from necessities of relief. In addition, the Republic of Colombia has been working non-stop to encourage the inclusion of indigenous communities, Afro-descendants, Palenqueros, and other minorities. The regulatory decree of the National System of Education and Artistic and Cultural Training, adopted in 2022, aims at fostering racial multiculturalism through educating the young generation. Concerning the other two recommendations on human rights defenders, the government introduced the emergency plan for the protection of social leaders. The first 3 months resulted fruitfully with the effective installation of unified command posts for life, which promoted the generation of institutional confidence and the territorial presence of the states in the prioritized regions. Two recommendations were made on gender equality. The National Development Plan 2022-2026 has been in effect and continues to promote the section on women's rights and gender equality. This country is working non-stop to achieve this goal by the target date of 2030, as set forth in Sustainable Development Goals, Goal 5. In relation to the recommendation of police brutality, the state understands that there is ongoing violence that stems from numerous causes and makes policing difficult. As a result, the current president, Gustavo Petro, reiterated his commitment to urgently intensify Colombian national police reforms in May 2023, strengthening the necessity of training the police on human rights. Delegates, I would also like to refer to a recommendation which Colombia took note of that has to do with the ratification of international instruments, the optional protocol to the Convention Against Torture, and other cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment or punishment. Colombia is furthering its relevant consultation with our institutions. My delegation would like to point out that those rights protected by these instruments are already covered in our national legal order. With IOPS, the newly elected government will continue to be an ardent defender of these mechanisms under the guidelines of the Universal Periodic Review. I'd like to restate our gratitude again, as there is a clear community of support, be it from different member states, from the civil societies, or from the Human Rights Council, allowing us to uphold the dignity of Colombia and the rights of its people. Thank you for your participation and genuine willingness to assist Colombia throughout this cycle. The Republic of Colombia expresses sincere appreciation to all the delegation that contributed, especially the Troika, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and for the assistance of the Secretary that made this process possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I now give the floor to the representative of the Defensoría del Pueblo for comments. Ombudswoman, you have 2 minutes and the floor is yours.
Dear Madam President, fellow delegates, on behalf of the Defensoría del Pueblo, we would like to thank all parties for the opportunity to communicate our human rights concerns. We would like to acknowledge the Republic of Colombia's efforts for accepting the recommendations addressed by the countries. We are especially pleased that solutions are being sought for the situation of women, indigenous people, and people in defenseless situations. Moreover, the Ombudsman's Office of Colombia thanks our countries for noting our recommendations and for addressing them to the Republic of Colombia. We highlight the participation of NGOs in the peace-building process and universal periodic review. The office considered it's relevant to engage these organizations in the implementation of the recommendations and to give them an important role as supervisors of Colombia human rights agenda. We are concerned that the implementation of the recommendations is complex, and for that reason, we hope that the government can approach us to support in this process. The Ombudsman's Office recalls zero tolerance to the endangerment of lives and well-being of human rights defenders. In this sense, we would like that in the future, the Republic of Colombia could accept the second recommendation made by France regarding the ratification of the optional protocol of the Convention Against Torture and other cruel and degrading treatment or punishment to human rights defenders. We believe that commitment with the situation of human rights defenders is essential in the peace-building process and a fundamental component to comply with the human rights minimum standards. Finally, we would like to thank the Secretariat for allowing our participation in this periodical review and for its outstanding performance in the worldwide defense of human rights. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'll now give the floor to the observer states to hear their comments about the review of Colombia. For this segment, please raise your placard if you wish to comment and wait for your delegation to be called out. Each will have 1 minute. We will start with the delegation of Azerbaijan. Please, Your Excellency, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and respectable fellow delegates. The Republic of Azerbaijan would like to thank the delegation of Colombia for its concern to work on the development of provided recommendations, especially the recommendation received from the Republic of Azerbaijan over the past 6 months. Regarding Colombia that has established a program to facilitate the return of the internally displaced people to their homes and to continue in this matter. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now is the turn of the delegation of Cameroon. Please, Your Excellency, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We would like to thank the delegation of Colombia for the presentation of their addendum. The delegation of Cameroon would like to thank the state of Colombia for its continuous efforts to improve the human rights situation in its country. In terms of children's rights, we would like to reaffirm our position that the recruitment of children and adolescents by armed groups is an important issue. And we encourage you to take further steps to tackle this problem, since ensuring a better future for our children also means a better future for us all. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the delegation of Canada. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President and fellow delegates. The state of Canada would like to thank the delegation of Colombia for its continuous commitments. I want just to emphasize one issue regarding the importance of having more consideration for the linguistic minorities in the country. The state of Colombia should establish a more efficient educational system that institutes the indigenous language as the first spoken language in the areas populated by a major percentage of indigenous people, allowing them to not lose their culture. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of France. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates, NGOs, and HRIs. France delegation thanks Colombia for taking part of the fifth cycle Universal Periodic Review. France is still concerned about the situation of human rights offenders, given that Colombia noted the recommendation relating the ratification of the optional protocol of the Convention against torture and other cruel or degrading treatment or punishment. France suggests Colombia to reconsider its position for the next cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Delegation of Nigeria, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates. The delegation of Nigeria thanks the delegation of Colombia for their role and their engagement in the active dialogue and in the UPR process. Our delegation hopes Colombia will continue its efforts and action in order to be able to implement the optional protocol to the Convention against torture and other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatments and punishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to an international organization for them to make comments. 1 minute is the allotted time for each speaker. For this segment, please raise your placard if you wish to make comments, and wait for your organization to be called out. Minority Rights Group International, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, Vice Presidents, and Secretary for the floor. Minority International would like to thank you, the delegation of Colombia, for their presentation and consideration regarding the improvement of the situation of indigenous peoples community, and the delegation of Canada for having remembered to the state of Colombia the importance of linguistic minorities in the country. However, Minority International recommends to the state of Colombia to take further improvement regarding the importance of minority languages in the country, giving the possibility to indigenous people to speak their minority languages besides Spanish as first and official one in the region of Colombia where they live. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Women's International League for Peace and Freedom.
You may now comment.
Dear Madam President, Your Excellencies, State Delegates. Women's International League for Peace and Freedom welcomes the adoption by Colombia of recommendations regarding women's political participation and implementation of the peace process. However, we also wish to note the importance of involving women in juridical and legal processes, which is why we wish to reiterate our recommendation to open a subsection of the Special Tribunal for Peace dedicated to gender-based violence and crimes. Finally, we believe Colombia is well on its path towards a better involvement of women in peace process and can only congratulate it thereon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is the representative.
International Working Group for Indigenous Affairs.
You may now have the floor.
Madam President, fellow delegates, on behalf of IWGIA regarding the delegation of Colombia, we notice the delegates' continued involvement in the cycle. Hopefully, this sign of goodwill improves the current situation. However, the acceptance of the recommendations has to be met with effective implementation. Once again, our distinguished appreciation goes to the delegates of Nigeria and Canada for bringing our concerns to the FUR. We're looking forward to future collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? This concludes the list of speakers of the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to Colombia for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President, representative of the member states, and nature rights, especially that of the Defensoría del Pueblo and civil society organizations. Thank you for your intervention. To comment on the matter brought up by the delegation of Cameroon and Canada, my delegation would like to point out that Colombia's history and experience with armed conflict are significant and might have hindered our process. Nonetheless, with regard to linguistic minorities, we have significant efforts under CINEFAC educating the youth. Concerning the concern brought up by the delegation of France, my delegation would like to point out that those rights protected by these instruments are already covered in our national legal order under the peace agreement, under the special jurisdiction for peace. Moreover, we would like to stress that gender equality and violence are stressed through CINEFAC. As the UPR full cycle of our country concludes, Colombia will continue to uphold the commitments it has made for its people, fostering a culture of respect for their rights. Thank you very much.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Berlin for her comments and for Colombia's participation throughout the UPR process. I now suggest that the Council should adopt a decision on the outcome of the Universal Periodic Review of the Republic of Colombia. If there is no objection, the outcome is now adopted. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now continue with the item 6 of the Universal Periodic Review with the adoption of the Working Group Report of the Republic of France. It is my pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Virgilio Rinaldi, Ambassador for Human Rights at the Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs of the French Republic, to present the general outcome of the working group session. Your Excellency, I invite you to take the floor. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. It is an honor to represent France on the adoption of the outcome of this Universal Periodic Review. We appreciate the work of all the states that have been involved in interactive dialogue during our review and the cooperation and support of the NGOs and NHRIs. In addition, our delegation thanks the delegation of Canada for representing our Troika. During the review, France received 6 recommendations, 4 have been accepted. To continue implementing recommendations of the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, including those related to the situation of the Roma and other minorities. To renew the governance of the public drinking water and sanitation service in Guadeloupe, to ensure and invest in food system sustainability, to fulfill France's stated goal of contributing 0.7% of the GNI towards official development assistance. In response to Azerbaijan's remark about the decision of France not to ratify the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all Migrant Workers and members of their families, it cannot be implemented by the Republic of France. According to internal law, employers and employees find a balanced agreement on work conditions through other means. National legislation and European Union law provide already the protection of their fundamental work-related employee rights. Furthermore, France guarantees the protection of all citizens without distinction of region, race, or religion, as referred by Article 2 of the Constitution. As our delegation has already stated in the national report, these recommendations were therefore noted together with another recommendation related to the same matter. 6 months after the review, France is pleased to state the progress regarding the matters examined in the last Universal Periodic Review. Concerning the elimination of racial discriminations, it has been set up a monitoring system to investigate racial abuses. Continuing, a mechanism has been established to allow independent oversight of police, to assess police actions and increase transparency. To contrast discriminations towards Islamic groups, especially started after the increase of acts of terrorism, it has been designated the Committee for Islam in charge of protecting their freedom of expression and belief. Furthermore, the National Strategy for Roma Equality, Inclusion and Participation deployed in 2020 has been accompanied with human and financial resources dedicated to the fight against anti-Gypsyism. As for the refugees, the AGIR program allowed the creation of the Observatory of Integration Policy in order to develop data on asylum seekers and refugees and secure them employment and inclusion. On behalf of the syndicat mixte de gestion de l'eau et de l'assainissement de Guadeloupe, a specialized commission was assigned local to monitor the health situation and coordinate its efforts with local authorities. The Minister for Agriculture and Food Sovereignty confirmed his engagement in new programs supporting local farms and encouraging investments in local structures. Finally, the GNI goal for official development assistance is about to reach 0.61% of the state's contribution. Thus, it's right on schedule according to the program law for solidarity-based development and fight against global inequalities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I now give the floor to the representative of the Commission Nationale Consultative Droits de l'Homme for comments. Mr. Renzo Wong, you have 2 minutes and the floor is yours.
Dear Madam President, state delegates, and fellow members of the NGOs, thanks so much for your excellent reports about the human rights situation and the amendment in our periodic review. Here, allow me to express my appreciation to your facilitation for a smooth UPR. I, on behalf of the NCDH France, first congratulate France to support the recommendation on police abuses and hatred speech. I would like to express our ongoing concern about the decision of France not to ratify the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all Migrant Workers and members of their families. Furthermore, I compliment Canada, Colombia, and Cameroon for your cooperation in following our recommendations that are aligned with our core beliefs against racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, and other forms of discrimination, such as gender, minority, and indigenous I want to thank these states for the mutual development in recommending France to make a difference in many areas. I would also appreciate your effort in following our recommendations in diaspora, language oppression, and human trafficking. Out of all the other priorities, dear states delegates accepted our advocacy, even though they are facing many difficulties domestically and internationally. I praise your kindness and justice. Regardless of other problems, I regret to mention that Azerbaijan, Nigeria only voted our recommendations without further thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. I'll now give the floor to the observer state to hear their comments about the review of France. Each will have 1 minute. For this segment, please raise your blue cards if you wish to comment and wait for your delegation to be called out. We will start with the delegation of Azerbaijan. Please, Your Excellency, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President and fellow delegates. The delegation of Azerbaijan urges the delegation of France to reconsider the provided recommendation by the delegation of Azerbaijan about the decision of France not to ratify the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all Migrant Workers besides their family members, and to align it with its state's domestic laws besides EU legislations. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now is the turn of the delegation of Cameroon. Please, Your Excellency, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We would like to thank the delegation of France for the presentation of their addendum. The delegation of Cameroon welcomes all the efforts taken by the Republic of France in regards of the accepted recommendation, particularly concerning the elimination of racial discrimination. We are more than pleased that several measures have been implemented in order to protect minorities. As there's a significant number of Cameroonians living in the Republic of France, we appreciate this increased efforts even more. We would like to stress that due to our linguistic proximity and our shared history, we hope to continue to work together with the Republic of France in order to strive for a better future for both of our countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of Colombia. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President, distinguished member of the Secretariat, fellow delegates, and honorary representatives of the NGOs and NHRIs here present. The delegation of the Republic of Colombia welcomes the delegation of France and thanks you for the presentation of its item 6. The state of Colombia would like to praise the Republic of France for the recent achievement regarding their overseas territories, in particular Guadeloupe, with the mobilization of a specialized commission which was sent in loco to ensure the effective implementation of the law number 2021-513. However, the delegation of Colombia feels the need to reiterate the importance of the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all Migrant Workers and members of their families as complementary to your existing agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of Nigeria. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates. The delegation of Nigeria thanks the delegation of France for their role and their engagement in the active dialogue and UPR process. Nigeria would like to underline the importance of having accepted by France the recommendation to improve the water system in Guadeloupe and to fight against racial discrimination. However, Nigeria is concerned about the situation of migrant workers and wish France will continue its efforts to protect all rights of all migrant workers and members of the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to international organizations for them to make comments. 1 minute is the allotted time for each speaker. For this segment, please raise your placard if you wish to comment. Say the name of your organization out loud and wait to be given the floor to speak. And the first speaker is the representative of
Friends of Europe International.
Please, you may now comment.
Madam President, distinguished delegates, we thank the Republic of France the French Republic, for the support of the food security system in their country, small farmers, and to be together for the GNI target. And we hope to see continued commitment of France to the protection of the climate and our planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? This concludes the list of speakers of the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to Franz for your final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. The delegation of France has taken into account all the comments, considerations, and remarks made by other states, NGOs, and NHRIs in a spirit of collaboration. In order to secure inclusivity and integration, France is fully committed to the improvement and development of human rights at a national and international level. The Universal Periodic Review has once again revealed itself to be fundamental to stimulate a dialogue based on equality and mutuality. France is pleased to be a part of its mechanism and its contribution to raise awareness on issues that we as an international community are to be improved together. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Rinaldi for his comments and for France's participation throughout the entire UPR process. I now suggest that the Council should adopt the decision on the outcome of the Universal Periodic Review of the Republic of France. Any objections? I see none. The outcome is adopted. We shall now continue with the item 6 of the Universal Periodic Review with the adoption of the Working Group Report of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is with pleasure to give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Shayla O'Connor, Ambassador and Deputy Permanent Representative of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the UN Geneva, to present the general outcome of the Working Group sessions. Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes.
Hello, we are proud to share the developments of the accepted recommendations from the 5th Periodic Review of Nigeria. Nigeria has accepted 7 and noted 2 of the 9 proposed recommendations provided by the esteemed delegates of Cameroon, Canada, France, Azerbaijan, and Colombia. Azerbaijan's recommendation to continue to adopt measures to promote the Migrant Workers Convention, as well as the recommendations to take results-oriented measures to eliminate religious intolerance and hatred, has been upheld. The International Labor Organization in 2021 supported the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment to convene a 2-day stakeholders workshop to validate the revised national policy on labor migration. We have repeated this event in 2023 with continued success and have set aside provisionary funds to hold it annually in order to continuously hold ourselves accountable to remaining current on the needs and rights of migrant workers. Furthermore, in addition to the exclusion of religion as an index in the reporting of the national census and non-registration of political parties with ethnic or religious coloration in order to take further measures to eliminate religious intolerance, we have instituted further legal protections to all places of worship and cemeteries with the intent to keep them free from vandalism and promote respect for all. We have faced setbacks regarding this goal due to the terrorist attacks orchestrated by Boko Haram, and will continue to strive towards religious tolerance, peace, and equality by continuing to promote legislation condemning religious discrimination and violence. The state accepted France's recommendation to continue to support the 2015 Violence Against Persons Act and push with the accepted states that have not yet adopted it. In the past 6 months, we are pleased to report that a collaboration with several print and social media campaigns, we have continued to the spread of awareness for the act and it is now adopted in 34 out of 36 states. Our goal is to have all states supported by 2024. The state accepted recommendation from Colombia to continue implementing the Child's Right Act that was originally instituted in 2003. We're happy to announce that it is now accepted in 27 out of 36 states, an improvement of 3 states from last year. The state accepted the recommendation by both Canada and France to modify section 29(4)(b) in the Nigerian constitution, as this section could be read as providing an exception for child marriage, which, as shown in our national report, we have made extended efforts to eliminate. The constitution has been altered to provide clear and specific language forbidding child marriage, no matter the circumstance. Furthermore, we requested the High Commissioner for Human Rights to organize a series of regional workshops with the intent to provide education on child, early, and forced marriage, as well as procedures to ensure responsibility at both the national level as well as within individual communities. The workshops will be held in August 2023, and we look forward to reporting their outcome in a national report in the next UPR cycle. Continuing, we also accepted Canada's recommendation to continue work on the establishment of the Sexual Assault Referral Center. With feedback from women, we learned that the referral center was not action enough, as many women are assaulted by family members or spouses and do not have safe access to shelters. Therefore, in addition to the Sexual Assault Referral Center, we have made efforts to create more shelters that can provide secure accommodation for women and girls who are in danger of being subjected to violence. These shelters provide resources for abused women and girls for recovery, the judicial process of leaving abusers, and other needed social services. Prior to November of 2022, there were only 9 shelters in Nigeria, but in July of 2023, there will be 25. It is our hope to continue to create more shelters and have strategies for implementing them more widespread. In regards to our noted recommendations, Nigeria has noted the recommendation from Colombia on the abolition of capital punishment. The issue is highly contested among citizens due to the rise in violence within the country. Specifically in regards to Boko Haram, severe punishment is seen as the most optimal deterrent to individuals choosing to engage in more violence. Furthermore, it is also enshrined in Section 33 of Nigeria's constitution. Thus, at this time, we must note the recommendation. Likewise, the same reasoning for strong punishment to promote justice is why we must note Cameroon's recommendation for the liberation of the SARS protesters. We thank frontline defenders for continuing to challenge the matter, as we believe it is through candid discussions that the best solutions are forged. We look forward to continuing discussions on the matter in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I now give the floor to the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian National Human Rights Institution for comments, Ms. Evelyn Madero Montana. You have 2 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear Madam President, UPR Assembly, and fellow delegates, we as the Nigerian Human Rights Commission are pleased by the disposition of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in supporting most of the recommendations made during the 4th cycle UPR. We recognize the goodwill of the country and appreciate the commitment it has made to improve the human rights panorama of the Nigerian people. Nonetheless, there are ongoing human rights issues that require attention and support in order to make an integral contribution to the country. We are concerned that the death penalty remains as a legal punishment, and the Nigerian state has not shown any will to make a change. While we understand that such penalty is enriching the Nigerian constitution, we believe that it is the time to initiate a dialogue towards the protection of the right to life and the eventual abolishment of the execution. Furthermore, we restate the need to continue working to combat human trafficking and to ensure a better cooperation between the National Agency for the Prevention of Trafficking and the Nigerian Police Force, as the anti-trafficking capacity continues to increase since the last report. We hope that during the 5th cycle review, we are able to see a real progress on the implementation that the state decided to accept and a better disposition to discuss key issues that were noted. On behalf of the Commission, we thank the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights for allowing us to participate in such an important mechanism, and we state our compromise to promote and protect human rights in Nigeria. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I'll now give the floor to the observer states to hear their comments about the review of Nigeria. Each state will have 1 minute. For this segment, please raise your card if you wish to comment and wait for your delegation to be called out. We will start with the delegation of Azerbaijan. Please, Your Excellency, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President and fellow delegates. The Republic of Azerbaijan would like to thank again the delegation of Nigeria for its cooperation due to the acceptance of the Republic's recommendation and wishes that it will continue to adopt measures to promote the Immigrant Workers Convention, as well as to take the results-oriented measures to eliminate religious intolerance. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now is the turn of the delegation of Cameroon. Please, Your Excellency, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We would like to thank the delegation of Nigeria for both the presentation of their addendum and its made efforts to improve the human rights situation in Nigeria. Even though our recommendation for a strong punishment to promote justice was noted, we would like to reaffirm our position on this issue and underline its importance. Moreover, the delegation of Cameroon is certain that if both the Republic of Nigeria and the Republic of Cameroon work together in the future and especially cooperate on issues that concern both of our states, we can increase the stability of the whole African region, which will benefit us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of Canada. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President and fellow delegates. The state of Canada appreciates the willing of Nigeria to face all its internal issues. I would thank to have accepted the recommendations. Nevertheless, the delegation of Canada would once again to stress out the importance of ensuring the complete abolition of the death penalty, assure the end of the police brutality related to the end SARS movement, and therefore providing independent investigations. The focus on women's rights, especially on the empowerment of them in matter of land ownership and local agriculture. And finally, hinder the child marriage practice, nowadays still legally diffused. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of Colombia. Your Excellency, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President, distinguished member of the Secretariat, fellow delegates, and honorary representatives of the NGOs and NHRIs here present. The delegation of the Republic of Colombia welcomes the delegation of Nigeria and thanks it for the presentation of its item 6. We appreciate the acceptance of the recommendation about the implementation of the Child's Rights Act. We congratulate the state of Nigeria for increasing the number of states from 25 to 27, which now have accepted the act. However, regarding the noted recommendation about the abolition of death penalty, we are aware that the country of Nigeria uses it as a deterrent, but we want to point out the positive example of the country of Chad, which faces the same challenges regarding Boko Haram, and that it has recently abolished capital punishment. Hence, we warmly encourage the country of Nigeria to take such practice under consideration in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Delegation of France, you may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates, NGOs, NHRIs. France delegation thanks the delegation of Nigeria for participating to the 5th cycle of the Universal Periodic Review. France is glad that Nigeria decided to accept our recommendations about child marriage and female genital mutilation. We expect Nigeria to commit to these purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to international organizations for them to make comments. For this segment, please raise the card if you wish to comment. State the name of your organization out loud and wait to be given the floor to speak. Please note that you have 1 minute to speak. And the first speaker is the representative of
Minority International.
Please, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President, Vice President, Secretary for the floor. Minority Rights Group International recommend to the Federal Republic of Nigeria to take into account, besides the role of English language, the important entire barrier of minority languages in the country, besides the one of English. For the fact that the lack of consideration for them has caused also many socioeconomic challenges in the country, as the privilege given in the use to the language of origin compared to other minority languages as Ngoni language that is disappearing in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is the representative of
Global Initiative.
You may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President. Fellow delegates, I represent the NGO of Global Initiative to End All Corporal Punishment of Children. We would like to thank the Federal Republic of Nigeria for adopting recommendations on critical human rights issues. However, our NGO urges the Federal Republic of Nigeria in the next Universal Periodic Review to enact further legislation reflecting the intent of Article 17(3)(f) of its Constitution, protecting children from neglect and exploitation, as well as more specific legislation addressing child corporal punishment. We would like to bring to the respective states' attention the importance of human rights education and relevant initiatives to be implemented aiming on cultivating children's knowledge on their rights so as to be able to distinguish daily abuse in different settings from discipline. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, you may now comment. Dear Madam President, Your Excellencies, fellow delegates, on behalf of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, I would like to thank the delegation of Nigeria for the acceptance of the recommendations made by Canada regarding the prohibition of genital mutilation. However, we are still concerned about the need of increasing women's empowerment through their registration as landowners, in attendance to Section 43 of Chapter 4 of the Nigerian Constitution. In this sense, we would like to thank the Canadian delegation for their interference on our behalf, and our organization believes that more work shall be done in this country. Thank you. Thank you. Next is the representative of
Friends of the Earth International.
You may now comment.
Dear Madam President, dear Excellencies, and dear fellow delegates, I want to mention that Nigeria still needs to implement the right to food in the Constitution, which we see as an important point to secure the nourishment of the population. Furthermore, we also believe that Nigeria would benefit greatly from starting initiatives for financial and educators to farmers, especially smallholder farmers, including educational sustainability and focusing on farmers, on women's farmers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Frontline defenders.
Please, you may now comment.
Thank you, Madam President. Frontline defenders want to express gratitude to the Federal Republic of Nigeria for supporting our recommendation and remarks for the Republic of Cameroon and Colombia, as well as for the efforts to improve the situation for human rights defenders in your country. However, we want to highlight the importance to conduct fair and open trials to investigate policy impunity and the free protesters that have been arrested for the End SARS movement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? This concludes the list of speakers of the stakeholders. I now give the floor back to Nigeria for its final remarks. Excellency, you have the floor and you have 2 minutes.
We would like to thank Madam President and Vice President of the Human Rights Committee, Azerbaijan for acting as Troika, and all the member states for their valuable time and recommendations. To address Canada's concerns regarding police brutality, we have made a commitment to the justice of protesting citizens, utilizing their freedom of speech by creating the Nigerian Police Force Establishment Act in 2020. Its objective is to provide an effective police service that is based on the principles of accountability and transparency, protection of human rights, and partnership with other security agencies. We look forward to continuing this act in the future. Regarding Colombia's concerns regarding capital punishment, we welcome the ongoing discussion on the topic and want to reassure that we take the matter seriously and will continue to review it on an ongoing basis. We deeply value the process of the UPR towards upholding the sanctity of human rights and are grateful for the opportunity to work collaboratively with you all. We look forward to continuing to implement the recommendations of our fellow states in future cycles in order to overcome the challenges of hardship, violence, and discrimination that exist in the world. We seek to promote the values of the universal human rights, both at home and abroad, for all, and are happy to be among others who feel the same. Thank you very much.
I thank Your Excellency Ms. O'Connor for her comments and for Nigeria's participation throughout the entire UPR process. I now suggest that the Council adopt the decision on the outcome of the Universal Periodic Review of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Any objections? There is no objection. The outcome is now adopted. With the adoption of the outcome of the Universal Periodic Review of Nigeria, we have concluded the review and approval of the outcomes of the Universal Periodic Review for the 6 states under review during the Padova Model UPR. Thank you, Your Excellencies, for your speeches and for your fruitful participation in the whole UPR process. I now propose that the Council adopts the decision on the outcomes of the Universal Periodic Review of Azerbaijan, Cameroon, Canada, Colombia, France, and Nigeria. Are there any further comments or questions to be made from the floor? Are there any objections? I see no objection. The decision is adopted. The regular session of the Human Rights Council, item 6, is now closed. We will now take a break, and we would like to use the spare time to take pictures with you all at Palazzo Bo, the main entrance of the University of Padova. We will need to move there in order to do that. It's more or less 10 minutes from here. We would be really pleased if you joined. After the photo shoot session, we will convene again in this main room for the concluding remarks, the awards, and the closing ceremonies. Before you all leave the room, all participants are invited to fill in the form that is going to be projected on the screen in some minutes. Please vote according to your opinion, the best team according to participants' awards. You will have 10 minutes to decide. Of course, you cannot vote for your team, but the best performing team throughout the entire simulation according to your judgment. You have it? Yeah. Okay. Please. Thank you.
Here because
È quello di male.
Welcome back to all participants, our distinguished guests, and our viewers from home. What an enriching experience this has been. First of all, I would like to thank all participants for your participation and your performances during these days. You assumed your roles professionally and demonstrated proficiency and good knowledge of human rights systems and issues. You all actively participated in the training session and interacted amongst each other during lobbying and during the interactive dialogues. On behalf of the Padova Model UPR Secretariat, we're proud of your work and we thank you for your interest in applying to the Model East this year. We hope to have met your expectations as well. Before we get to the closing ceremony, let's welcome Mr. Gianni Magazzini of the UPR branch of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in Geneva. Mr. Magazzini has kindly agreed to give us his closing remarks and comments. Mr. Magazzini, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be with you, and I can sense the energy from the participants in this 5th edition of the Padova Model UPR. And I would like to start by thanking Professor De Stefani, of course, Professor Masha, the whole team of the Padova University, and also the colleagues from my office, and I see Laia is with us as well, for the contribution made to an excellent program. I would say to you that those who participate in the Model UPR, the Padova edition of the Model UPR, will certainly be a few steps ahead. When it comes to the UPR, in the context of the UN and Human Rights Council, we have just finished the 3rd cycle. We have started the 4th cycle earlier this month. We have a cycle which will be focused on enhanced implementation as we look ahead. And we have just managed to have a resolution adopted in the past session of the Human Rights Council, which strengthened the UPR and its ability to be meaningful at country levels at the request and with the consent of member states. So I say this to you because even for us as the UPR team, the Office of the High Commissioner in Geneva, this is a special moment. It's a moment where we are now defining the profile of 11 colleagues that will be based each in the regional office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. So in 11 locations from Santiago de Chile all the way to Fiji, in order to have a dedicated capacity to be able to respond more promptly and more effectively to requests by member states for assistance in implementing recommendations that they've received and that they will accept. And as you know, the first 14 countries have just finished the review a few days ago. They have now a process of reflection between now and the Human Rights Council 52nd session in February, March. And we plan to have these additional resources in these regional offices by the end of March 2023. And I say this to you because it shows how dynamic the UPR related work is and how much this may lead to more possibility and opportunities for cooperation looking ahead. And for those of you who are looking at the UPR or at the Office of the High Commissioner as a concrete opportunity for starting your professional, developing your professional careers, I would say that this action by consensus by member states in October 2022 represent an increase of about 50% between position in Geneva and in New York of what the office is all about. So I think we are on a right and good trajectory. And I think that this has been seen already by the Secretary General of the United Nations when in his call to action for human rights requested us to do a practical guidance for all the heads of UN agencies, which is now resulting in more and more good practices of engagement by the entire UN system in advancing the SDGs with human rights at their core through the UPR. And so I would like to leave you with this sense that what you have done will give you important elements to navigate through the challenges ahead for the UN system in its effort to do more on development, to do more on human rights, to do more on prevention, and to possibly find ways and means to address root causes of conflict and humanitarian crisis, which see today more than 90 million either refugees or displaced. And that is something that certainly we need to tackle more and more as we look ahead. And so with this knowledge and tools, and before you go into receiving your award certificates, I want to reassure you that we consider your expertise in a very positive way, and we do count on you in making a difference, in utilizing this tool, this mechanism, in whatever context you may be involved with your professional life. And if interested in the Office of the High Commissioner, please reach out to me personally or to Laia. We'll certainly be able and willing to engage with you more. All the best to you, and congratulations again on a very successful program.
Thank you, Mr. Magazzani. Mr. Magazzani has agreed to take some questions from the public. Please, to all state delegates and representatives of civil society organizations who would like to ask a question, raise your placards and wait for the floor to be given to you. Are there any questions? Delegation of Nigeria, you may now have the floor. Can someone please pass them the microphone? Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for your presentation. My question is, what suggestions do you have for students who want to go on to have a career in the human rights sphere of politics? Specifically, how do we best market ourselves for good opportunities?
Well, it's a good question, and it's a very challenging environment. When I started in the UN, I was finishing up my master at the Yale University, and I did an internship. That was an opportunity for me to get to know better the UN in New York. And eventually, once I finished the master, to go back there for a temporary position, which eventually became not so temporary that I had to give up my aspiration to do the PhD program in which I had been accepted, because I put it on hold for 10 years. All of this to say, those were the 80s. Now we are in different times. And unfortunately, for every single position we have available, there may be hundreds of candidates, but that should not in any way reduce your interest in the organization if you have one, and certainly consider various options, including an internship. Secondly, temporary position, and temporary positions also in connection with the work that has been undertaken, not just in HQ, New York or Geneva, but even in field locations. And don't look only at OHCHR, look at UNICEF, look at UNDP, look at UNHCR. Every single UN entity, including UNESCO, as human rights related position. And increasingly, there is cross-fertilization. I can only flag to you that as we speak, WHO is considering a mechanism similar to the Universal Periodic Review in order to do a system for health-related matters similar to the UPR, so as to better prevent pandemic of the type of Ebola and the COVID-19. So all of this to say, pursue your interest, but don't look only at the human rights angle, look at every single UN entity. They are increasingly requiring human rights related expertise, and that is exactly the result, part of what the call to action for human rights of the Secretary General has generated over the past couple of years, and I'm sure that will be increasingly so. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Magazzani. Are there any other questions? No? So thank you so much, Mr. Magazzani, and thank you for your constant support throughout the simulation process, and also thanks to all external evaluators, Ms. Laia Valsentis and Ms. Nicoletta Zappila from the UPR Info. The Secretariat really appreciates your feedback, help, and support. Thank you once again, Mr. Magazzani, and we hope to see you next year.
Thank you very much, and all the best to you.
Now, I would like to invite Professor De Stefani to share his comments and remarks of this year's Padova Model UPR 2022. Professor De Stefani, you may now have the floor.
The floor is. Thank you. So I think you can relax now, because the model is over. Okay, all your performance has been evaluated already. And so you are back in your position as students, let's say in many universities and so on. So relax, okay, fine. You did well. We are very happy of the experience. I think we lived together 4 days of that were. I have three words, three concepts to share with you. This 4 days and also the previous weeks, of course, have maybe evidenced 3 concepts that I mentioned, that I put in my notes here. So the first concept is stress. And you were being overwhelmed with deadlines, with submissions, with tasks, mini tasks, formalities, all these kind of things. And this is, and among these issues that you have to face, to tackle in these days, I would include also team working. Sometimes team working is not easy. You have to deal with people that maybe you meet for the first time in your life, and you have to, do something together, which is not necessarily, an easy task. But eventually you succeeded to submit on time, to behave in an appropriate way, okay, to also to wear in an appropriate way, I would say. And so I think this few days has been useful for you to understand which are your weaknesses, which are your strong points. So all things that can be useful for you in your academic life, let's say, in the university, but also in your professional future. The second concept is, I think, a realization of diversity. You realize how complicated it is to handle a program, a process like the UPR. The UPR is not just, it's beyond multilateralism, okay? Because there are a variety of different actors, different, let's say, stakeholders that you have to take into account simultaneously. You are talking to your peers, states, but you're also talking to the international community of NGOs. You're talking to your own public national human rights institutions are, watching you as states, and the other way around for the other actors who are participating in this process. So you are an NGO, but you also have to behave because you have to deal with ministers that may, make a difference within the country. So you have to be cautious, you have to be, but also audacious, okay, to be, pushing sometimes. So it's very complicated, the reality. In the reality, it has been also very complicated here in Padova these days. I think we noticed also some, let's say, changes in the attitude, in the strategies, in the tactics that you have implemented from the first day till this morning, I would say. So I think you noticed as well. So diversity. You are living in a very complex ecosystem. And I hope that these few days have been useful for you to understand the complexity of the ecosystem and learn how to navigate it. And then the third concept or word, if you like, is rules. Okay, we have been living in the last few years a situation in which rules have been suspended, have been amended, and been, let's say, introduced and then immediately after, repealed because of the COVID, because of the economic situation, because of the crisis that has invested our countries. Not only legal rules, but also social rules. Months spent attending classes in pyjama, okay, and having no opportunity to really interact with your mates, with your professors, and so on. I think that I'm a little more experienced than you. I noticed that in the way you behave, in the way you take the floor, in the way you speak. So we have probably after some years of, let's say, everything goes, okay, we have to relearn, okay, to really make sense of these rules, to understand the rationale. They are not just imposed by somewhere else to us to mark the power. They have a sense. There is a rationale behind them, and our task as scholars, especially in the field of law, political science, and so on, is really to grasp this rationale, to interpret this rationale, okay, and to make it an habitus for each of us. Experience like this, model UPR, model UN, model, any kind of simulation that you have in classes or universities and so on, is useful also to regain sort of the capacity to master these situations, okay, and to understand what is the real meaning of the rules that we are required to abide by. Okay. This being said, I think that I congratulate all of you, all participants. Been fun from my perspective, not maybe from yours, but from my perspective as an observer from outside, it's been fun. Big congratulations, and I think I can interpret the feeling of everybody to be extremely grateful to the wonderful group of students from Padova, from Graz, from Norway that have run the organization of these days, and also that have organized the whole game over several weeks and months. So the Secretariat this year has done a wonderful work. I would, they will receive their certificates as well as the other participants, and we start now the awarding ceremony. Okay, according to a rule, to some rules, and to a schedule that Alessia will govern. Just a final sort of information. We have asked our university, Padova University, to give. I don't know if you know about this open badge. It's a sort of international certificate that you can download from international institution. And so all participants in this exercise will receive, will be available, will be allowed to download in the next days probably. We will inform you through an email. This badge. That is a badge on international negotiations. So it's a sort of certificate that you can include in your CVs, in your anything describes your performance as students. And this is a little, let's say, a gift that we want to give you to demonstrate how we appreciate your work, your efforts, and also your the quality of what we have delivered over the months and in these last few days. So you will be contacted in the next days because probably we need some sort of institutional emails, for example, and we don't have that from all of you. And once we have this, all arrangements done, you will receive our communications. Okay. Thanks again, and now start the real, official part of the ceremony.
Thank you so much, Professor De Stefani. I now declare the award and the closing ceremony officially open. Before we announce the winners, we would like to acknowledge everyone's participation. Therefore, please, when your team is called out, come to the front to receive your participation certificate. We will start with NHRI's teams. So, Commission Nationale Consultative Droits de l'Homme, please come forward. Pictures? No, picture. Picture? Yeah. Come here and take a picture. Come. Hello, Human Rights Commission. Canadian Human Rights Commission. Azerbaijan Human Rights Commissioner.
In charge del
Nigerian Human Rights Institution. Defensoría del Pueblo.
If we can find someone for this country.
Now we move on to NGOs. Frontline Defenders. International Work Group of Indigenous Affairs. Global Initiative to End All Corporate Punishment on Children. Women's International League of Peace and Freedom. Friends of the Earth International.
Okay.
Minority Group International. Let's move on to states now. So, France. Azerbaijan. Canada. Professor Di Stefani is our model today. Cameroon. Nigeria.
Team Africa.
Colombia. So now, before we announce the winners, I would like to remind you that on the basis of the evaluation pointing system elaborated by the Secretariat on both oral and written contributions, teams with an outstanding performance will be awarded the following awards: Best State Under Review, Best Recommending State, Best INGO Delegation, Best NHRI Delegation Awards. And the last one, we will decide, the best performing team according to participants. The time has come. I would now I will instruct you on how to react if you're a winner. Only the first place will get the award. Okay? If your team is the first place winner, please join here and allow to take pictures. So we will start with the Best State Under Review Award. The third place goes to, the third place goes to France. The second place goes to now, the first place for the Best State Under Review. This team has displayed a profound knowledge of the national human rights issues of their state they represented, exhibited a synchronized team strategy, and approached the respective state critically, realistically, and in a diplomatic, authentic way, both addressing questions in the recommendation decision-making process and in the addendum. Therefore, the Best State Under Review Award goes to Colombia. Congratulations. Congratulations. Miss Kira, Miss Kira Allen Cabrera and Miss Laura Berlin. Congrats. Would you like to share your thoughts with the audience? I'll give you a minute. Wait, I need to take the picture first. Now, for the Best Recommending State Award, the third place for the Best Recommending State goes to France. The second place goes to Azerbaijan. Now, moving on to the Best Recommending State. These teams have displayed a profound knowledge of the national human rights issues of the state they represented and the state they reviewed, expressed themselves realistically and in a diplomatic, authentic way during interactive dialogues and lobbying, professionally performed speeches and comments, and professionally crafted the required documents. So, the Best Recommending State Award goes to Colombia.
I just wanted to say that everybody here, I think, has done a wonderful job. When I applied for this UPR model, I honestly didn't think it would be this big of a deal. It would be so amazing. I wanted to thank the Secretariat for their amazing work, for guiding us, and also thank everybody here for being so professional and just it made me feel like I was in the real UPR session. Thank you.
Now, for the Best INGO Delegation Award, the third place goes to Global Initiative to End All Corporal Punishment on Children. The second place goes to Friends of the Earth International. Then, for the Best NGO Delegation, this team has adequately represented their NGO during the lobbying, pre-session, and the item 6. They have demonstrated a good knowledge of the national human rights issues of their representative states and an exceptional understanding of the human rights advocacies. So, the Best NGO Delegation Award goes to International Work Group for Indigenous Affairs.
Can we also get them a Best Dressed Award?
Moving on to the Best NHRI Delegation. The third place goes to the Nigerian National Human Rights Institution. The second place goes to Human Rights Commissioner of Azerbaijan. And for the Best NHRI Delegation, this team has adequately represented their NHRI during the lobbying, the pre-session, and the item 6. They have demonstrated good knowledge of the national human rights issues of the represented states and an exceptional understanding of the human rights advocacies. So, the Best NHRI Delegation Award goes to Human Rights.
Great. I would like to thank everybody for this amazing experience, the Secretariat for guiding us through this so enriching experience. And I would like to congratulate with all of us who are students, basically all of us, I think, to having participated in this UPR process and for having put aside our studies for 1-2 weeks, probably. So congratulations, everybody, and thank you again.
Now, for the best performing team according to participants, I am pleased to announce that according to your voting, the Secretariat did not vote. We have 2 winners. The first winner is a state delegation. The second winner is an NGO. The best state performing team according to participants is awarded to Colombia. Then, the best NGO performing team according to participant is awarded to Global Initiative to End All So now I declare the Padova Model UPR 2022 officially. Yes.
Which includes special certificates and a special award to members of the Secretariat. I'm pleased to give this certificate and also a little sort of gift, okay, a present to Lila. Here.
Lila.
To Raquel. Katerina. Okay, Silvana is online, so next time. Ready. Jimena. Alessia. Giovanni. Calpani. Leah is thank you, and for them, there is also this present, a little speaker from the Human Rights Center, basically. For sure that it can remind you of this event. Okay, with the gratitude, I think, of the whole group. The amazing work that done during the training, during the selection, preparations, and so on, and during this last few days. So if you have any speech to make, this is the last opportunity you have. Yeah.
I want to thank you all for participating in this model, for applying, for being very engaged. Honestly, it was a privilege to work with you. Unfortunately, we didn't have time and also the opportunity to socialize a lot. But I really, really hope that you guys actually manage to create great connections and maybe friendships or future collaborations. I hope you're going to apply also for the internships at the UPR, or that this UPR model will bring you opportunities in other human rights works, let's say. And I encourage you, I know that many of you are leaving, but I encourage you all, maybe those who are not leaving, to also socialize tonight so that you celebrate what you have done over the last 4 days.
One last thing, don't forget to apply to be a secretariat next year. Thank you all.
Thank you.